What's going on, guys? John Reynolds here, and I'm so excited for you all to hear my conversation I got to have today with Mark Henry. That's right, the world's strongest man, former Olympic powerlifter, strongman, and professional wrestler, the AEW color commentator, analyst, coach, and talent scout, now is also sitting down with yours truly ahead of AEW Dynamite's 200th episode taking place in Tampa. Now, Mark, formerly of the WWE, 25 years spent there, now in AEW, scouting some of the best talent all around the world. We talk about his eye for talent, his eye for the business, and we talk about also working at Busted Open Radio on Sirius XM alongside Dave LaGreca. We talk about his son, and we also talk about his fear of bridges, especially the one over in Tampa, the Skyway Bridge. We talk about that just a little bit. A fantastic conversation coming your way right now with the world's strongest man, Mark Henry.
My first question would be, obviously, this is the 200th episode of Dynamite. 200 episodes of anything is well respected. So for Dynamite to be going 200 strong and still developing new markets like Tampa, what does that mean for the company?
Business wise, it means a lot because anytime you break new ground and you go into a new territory, like you expand your brand. And for AEW to say, you know what, let's book Tampa on the 200th episode because they want to make sure that the new markets get their money's worth and see what we do in our biggest type environments. So like it's a power play. Like we're trying to make sure that we don't have to ask permission for a venue availability. It'll be offered to us, and so I expect like a really solid show coming Wednesday.
And obviously, a rich tradition of wrestling in Florida. Various companies, obviously, a lot of independents booming in the area. Coming to Florida, you guys were in, I believe, in Fort Myers last year, or the Estero area last year. Obviously, have done a
Yeah,
lot in Jacksonville. Obviously, is hometown, home base for AEW. Obviously, Florida is still a growing market for wrestling, a booming market. What are your experiences in Florida? Well, you mentioned earlier about obviously coming here a lot, but what does Florida mean to you, obviously, in the development of professional wrestling?
man, the wrestling in Florida been strong for 50 years. I'm a student of the territory area and Sunshine Wrestling with the Briscoes all the way to now. Um, like pro wrestling has been really super strong. So I mean, especially with people like Hogan and Savage and the historical names that are synonymous with Tampa. You had a Big Show, and the list goes on in the modern era of people that live there. And now is no different. There's a bunch of talent that live there. They love it. They love the beach, driving across the big bridges and all of that stuff. I'm not a fan of bridges. I get weirded out a little bit, but nonetheless, it's such a beautiful place. And um, AEW has got to carve its niche out in every Florida city. So us going to Sunrise and Miami and Jacksonville, and the list goes on. We have to establish a beautiful contact with Tampa, being such a big city and such a rich history in wrestling.
And I got to ask about the bridges. Is it just a heights thing, or is it just like a unknown of the structure? What's up with the bridges?
Oh man, I think some of it is height, but also is like the just you know that anything could go wrong at any time. I watch too many movies.
I got you.
It's the movies that did it to me.
And I
Sparked
can
my anxiety.
There you go. I understand, especially going over the Skyway Bridge going into Tampa. It is pretty testy. It can get a little crazy on there. But I don't want to talk about the growth of AEW. Obviously, Collision has come about these last few months. Where do you see, since you've joined the company, the growth being made from day one for you till now? Obviously, 200 episodes of Dynamite. You came along a little bit after Dynamite's, start. But what's the growth been like for you since you've come aboard to where the company's going with all these new shows and new acquisitions, things like that?
It's been incredible, man. There was only one show when I came over, and now there's three. And there was a lot of really, really good talent, but the talent pool has even grown uh, uh, over the last year and a half. I mean, you got people the likes of CM Punk there now, and Claudio Castagnoli, and so many other talents that we would be here all day naming them all. But the whole point is the growth, like you said, is grown expeditiously. Like and I plan, I foresee it even growing even more. We don't have children's programming yet. We don't have our women's division is killing. There's the potential to do a women's show, or at least all of the podcasting. We have an organization through the company called Heels, where the ladies meet up and talk wrestling and want to be acknowledged just like everybody else. So um, it's a beautiful thing to see the growth in the company.
Obviously, you mentioned a lot of talent there, and wrestling past and recently in memory, people know you as having a scout for talent, an eye for talent. What is it about transitioning from in-ring work and now being able to see talent now take that next step? Obviously, you've found the likes of Braun Strowman, Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill. You've had a hand in as well, and obviously you've taken a liking to Will Hobbs. So, what's the growth of the company and the growth of talent for you being able to understand and know what a talent is? What are kind of those intricacies for you when you're looking for talent and obviously they can take that next level?
Man, I like it when somebody walks in a room and everybody starts going, "Who is that?" Like, are they play football? They're a pro wrestler, actor. Like I look for that first thing first, and then I hope that they have a personality. I hope that they're glib. I hope that they're quick witted. And usually when I meet somebody that has all of the qualifications, I let them know, you're tailor made for pro wrestling. Um, we need more people in our business that have the gift for gab and that look the part. And have you ever played any collegiate or professional sports? And 9 times out of 10, the people that I say something to, they've done some, high level um, college athletics, uh, dancing, singing. They performed something. You can usually spot them out, and um, I'm kind of batting 1,000. The people that I choose, they usually go on and succeed at a high level once they have a game plan of how to develop. You got to know how.
And is that a giving back scenario for you? Because you were discovered in a similar way, obviously being found through powerlifting and being the world's strongest man and going through those different competitions. Is that a giving back process? Just wanting to be able to help somebody in the same way that you were helped, or is it just a overall encompassing passion for the business?
I feel like there is in a small way, but more than anything, I've learned and been taught what it takes to do what we do at a high level and how to recognize it. And it's just, like I'm also a biomechanical science guy. I understand bipedal movement, the way humans are supposed to move at their optimum. And then I can tell people all the time, like, hey, man, your hip hurt? And they like, yeah, how you know my hip hurt? You're walking guarded. Like there's things that you can recognize that everybody just can't recognize. Like you have to have that training and that understanding. And my knowledge of the force, if you will, is incredibly strong.
And whether it's discovering these talents, helping them develop, what do you want your next step to be? Obviously, transitioning to more out of the ring, or may very well see you back in the ring one day. That's totally up to you. But what do you want to see yourself do with AEW moving forward?
I don't think they want that, and I definitely don't want to be in pain. I want to do stuff at my pace. If I decide to come out of retirement and have a last match, that'd be awesome. But it's not imminent. I'm just gonna say it like that. Like when I know, everybody will know.
So, what is it you want to do next? What do you want the next chapter to be? If it's not in ring, what do you want to continue doing with the company and with AEW?
I want to keep developing companies. I want people to be better uh, after I've had some time there, and um, the confidence of AEW succeeding. That's everybody expects the company to be good, but I look at what the company already has that the company is not using. I look at people that are well that are doing well already, but they can do better. And we always call it on Sirius XM, we call it tightening the screws. Like I think that AEW just got to keep walking around tightening screws, keep stuff from rattling, keep stuff from falling apart, and once it's all together, it'll move incredibly smoother. And I think that that's just a simple way of putting it.
And one of the talents we mentioned earlier, one of the talents obviously that AEW is going to have a spotlight on moving forward. I'm sure if you had your say in it, he would be a top guy as well as Will Hobbs. Obviously, I've heard interviews where you've spoke highly of him. What is it about him? Is it seeing a lot of yourself in him, or is it just him being the uber athlete that he is that you could see him being a top star for years to come?
Well, he just listens. He's a good listener, and he applies what he learns. Um, I wish that everybody was like him as far as their mentality and their willingness to do whatever it takes to make the team succeed, make the group do better, not just be caught up in me, me, me. He's very unselfish, and I've told him that he needs to actually be more selfish.
And is that this may be a out of the box question, out of the not even thought about questions? Is being in a managerial role for him, being a mouthpiece for him, is that something you'd ever have interest in? Maybe working with him in a further capacity?
You know what? I haven't thought about it. I've been asked that from other companies as well as some independent companies, but I've not been asked that at AEW. Uh, I would consider everything and not shoot down nothing. But if it's something that's brought to me, then I'll evaluate it.
And you mentioned Busted Open earlier as well. Transitioning from being, completely encompassed in the business and then working with Dave LaGreca on Sirius XM, Busted Open. What was that transition like for you? Because obviously being there every week is different than, being behind a mic and talking about it from a media capacity. What is that transition been like for you, and what's the passion there to keep doing that?
Well, the transition was very seamless. I studied also radio, film, and television in college, and was a communications major by trade. But I when I met Dave LaGreca, I was the first caller on their show because I listened to talk radio. That's just if I get to a town and I'm driving through that city, I usually turn to the AM or FM, listening for the sports talk or listening for um, NPR or something to that effect. And I discovered them on satellite radio, man, almost 15 years ago or more, maybe 20. And then they moved to Sirius XM, and I just wanted to congratulate them on their success and moving up in the world. And I ended up being the first caller on the show 11 years ago, and here I am now, one of the hosts. It's pretty cool.
Also, your dynamic with Dave is is something to behold. And obviously, you guys are also transitioning more. I know Dave was on the new documentary for Peacock and things like that. You guys are really kind of transitioning throughout the wrestling space. And I also talked to someone who previously interviewed you before, Montezi. Obviously, had done a lot of work for you with music as well, and he's a Florida guy. Obviously, he's been a great deal of help to me. I've got to interview him several times. He did a song for you on AEW. I believe it's the recent
Legend.
the album. Yeah, what was that like? Obviously, your entrance music from WWE is iconic, but having this music with Montezi and seeing the work that he does, what's it like collaborating in that aspect?
Well, first off, the dude's a genius, and anybody that understands music like that, those people are usually good at math. They're good at organizational things. Like he just seemed very put together, and he's hyper respectful um, and just says, "Hey, man, I just grew up loving wrestling. Like I love football, basketball, and baseball, other major sports in the world. But he said wrestling was his thing, and anybody that loves wrestling more than football and basketball, they gonna be all right with me.
And you mentioned wrestling and football. I know your son, obviously, Jacob, is taking a foray into football right now, and obviously, wrestling. It seems like it's going to be in his future as well, popping up on BTE and different vlogs of different nature. What's it like seeing him, obviously, being successful in football right now, still in high school and trying to figure that out?
Oh, it's awesome, man. Just to see him and his confidence raised. There's a lot of these coaches out here that don't know he exists because of how horrible and mismanaged he was at the last school that he was at here in Texas. Now that he's at Vandergrift High School, I think that a lot of people are gonna be able to see him and recognize his abilities. He made All State in the toughest district in Texas, and we see people getting recruited that if he went against them, it would be so embarrassing that they probably wouldn't get an offer. And we just trying to fix that for him right now. But other than that, man, like life is good for Jacob.
I know if you're having success in high school football in Texas, you're definitely a damn good player, that's for sure. Because I know here in Florida, obviously, high school football is high profile. Florida, Texas, California. If you're being successful in any of those three states, obviously, you're going to go a long way. But having conversations with him about wrestling, is that when you're talking to him about that, obviously, if he has an interest in that path, is that right now more of just a hobby kind of conversation, or is it trying to teach him fundamentals and basics of the business right now?
No, I teach him the ins and outs, is what I call it. Jacob understands psychology in a way that there's a lot of 1, 2, 3 year wrestlers don't understand wrestling like he does. Why you do things as opposed to how. You can learn how, but why you do it and when to do it and where to put what you know, very difficult. Very difficult. And he's getting those kind of understandings right now.
And knowing the ins and outs, obviously knowing when to make your mark, whether it's on TV or in vignettes or things like that. When you did all the Rampage stuff with it, it's time for the main event. Where did you kind of source that inspiration from? Was that something you just took from other people or took, inspiration from, or is that just something you said, I'm on cam and let's go?
Well, a lot of it was Tony Schiavone and Tony Khan. Um, I had never done announcing in my career, and they were like, "Look, it's like riding a bike. Just you know what you're talking about. Just go up there and introduce the people and talk about what you know." And it was fun, man. Like, and I'm having a ball um, calling and making and introducing those matches. Um, I'm really enjoying that, and I appreciate AEW for allowing me to be able to do that.
And was that initially just pitched to you just kind of off the whim, or was that something you wanted to do? Or you mentioned Tony Schiavone and Tony Khan. Was it something they presented you with? Or
Well, I asked, and I was asked, "Well, have you ever done that before?" And I was like, "No." I think, and they were rather than saying, "Well, no, let's just try it," they just said, "Hey, go out there and have fun. Go see how you feel." And like, man, that kind of freedom is refreshing.
And then I do have one more question for you. When we talked about all these athletes you have, whether it's Braun Strowman's, the Bianca Belairs, the Will Hobbs, the people that obviously are standout athletes, whether it's strength, speed, just toughness in general. If you make the transition from powerlifting to professional wrestling, if we were to reverse that, who would you think could make the transition from wrestling to powerlifting seamlessly? Who would be kind of your ultimate, obviously strength without bounds, obviously could be great powerlifters?
Oh man, Pop uh, is so strong. Uh, Buddy Murphy is a strong guy. Nick Camarado. There's a bunch of Will Hobbs. There's some strong cats, man. Even now, because of how hard he's working, MJF is starting to get strong, man. You know, he's starting to get thicker. You can see the muscles start to poke out on him and stuff. He's doing a really good job.
And when you translate from powerlifting to professional wrestling, is that strength easily transferable, or is it two different kinds? Obviously, it's more than just lifting weight or lifting a person, but is it easily managed strength from powerlifting, strength to the ring?
Is different. Um, Pro wrestling is an anaerobic sport, and lifting is an anaerobic sport, and pro wrestling is an aerobic sport, and you have to be able to separate the two and get them to, work for you. And it's difficult to make the transition.
And my last question for you, I do appreciate you taking the time today. In terms of the Dynamite crowd on Wednesday, what should fans expect from the show? 200th episode. Obviously, it's going to be a big night out for AEW.
I would say a party. That crowd is off the hook. They'll chant stuff. They're having a ball most of the time. I really enjoy watching the crowd. I go out and just watch the crowd.
Hey, man, I appreciate you again taking the time. And like I said, a 200th episode coming up. It's going to be a fun one. Again, this was awesome. So I thank you again.
You're welcome, man. Have a good one.
What a legend. Mark Henry, the world's strongest man, all elite wrestling commentator and coach. What a pleasure it was to sit down and talk with him. But be sure, guys, to like and subscribe to the channel. Turn the bell on for notifications and leave a comment letting me know what you loved about that conversation with the future Hall of Famer. But again, we got more content coming your way, so you won't want to miss out. Again, subscribe to the channel. But for now, we'll see you next time.